The first thing I saw that morning was dust. Not the thin, lazy kind that sits on a windowsill and waits for a cloth. The kind that tells a story. It lay in faint, disturbed lines just beyond the cabin door, small ridges and arcs catching a pale strip of sunlight under the threshold. I would have missed it if the wind had picked up sooner. If the sun had shifted. If Colt hadn't frozen with his hand on the latch and said, very quietly, "Don't move." I stopped mid-step, my shoulder twinging, bare toes curling against the wood. "What is it?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away, just crouched, fingers hovering over the narrow gap between the bottom of the door and the packed earth outside. His jaw flexed. "Somebody been here," he said. "Since Cade left. And they didn't knock." Sleep had been thin after the sheriff rode away. Every creak had sounded louder. Every gust of wind had felt like a hand on the wall. I'd lain awake listening to Colt move around the cabin, the steady rhythm of his breathing when he finally sat in the chair, the quiet sigh when he thought I was asleep. At some point, I must have drifted off. Now, light filtered through the window, soft and gray-blue. The canyon lay quiet outside. No storm, no thunder, just that strange hush that settles after too many loud nights. Colt had rolled his sleeves up, hair still tousled from sleep, when he went to open the door. Then he saw the dust. "Boot prints?" I asked. "Smaller," he murmured. "More careful." Someone stood right here, close enough to listen. Ice ran down my spine. "You mean they were listening to us?" I whispered. "Maybe," he said. "Or checking if the place was empty." "Last night?" I asked. "Late," he said. "Or early. Hard to say. Wind hasn't had time to smooth it all out yet." He opened the door slowly, shoulders tense, eyes sweeping the horizon before he took a step out. I followed as far as the threshold, one hand braced on the doorframe, my injured arm tied against my chest. The yard outside looked normal at first glance. The small patch of hard earth around the cabin, the goat pen, the lean-to barn. Beyond that, the canyon stretched away into rocky slopes and scrub, washed clean by the storm. Then I saw what he meant. Just off the porch where the ground sloped down a little, the dust held clearer impressions. Not deep, whoever had been there knew how to walk light, but enough. A narrow boot track, toes pointed toward the cabin. Beside it, the faint oval of a horse's hoof, then another. They'd stopped, waited, then turned away without coming all the way up. Who would come this close and not knock? I murmured. "Someone who wanted to know if I was here," Colt said. Without announcing they were, he moved out into the yard, following the faint line of prints with a focus that made the air around him feel tighter. I stepped down carefully, letting my bare feet find the cooler patches of dirt. "Show me?" I asked. He glanced back. "You should be resting," he said. "I'm tired of lying still while the world moves," I said quietly. "If someone's coming this close to the door, I want to know how to see it too." Something in his gaze softened. "All right," he said. "Come here." He waited until I reached him, then nodded toward the ground. "See that?" he asked. At first, I saw nothing but dirt and a few stray goat prints. "Look at the edges," he said. "Right there, where the line breaks differently than the wind lays it." I squinted. The more I stared, the more the pattern emerged, like one of those drawings in Sunday school that just looked like noise until the teacher told you what animal to find. "The toe points there," he said, tracing the air above it with a finger. "Heel here." Whoever it was turned their foot when they shifted their weight. "Why?" I asked. "Could have been nervous," he said. "Could have been listening harder. Could have been ready to move." He moved forward a few steps, following the line as it arced toward the left, skirting the cabin rather than approaching straight on. "Why go around?" I asked. "So they could see the window," he said. "See if there was light. Hear if anyone was talking." A chill crawled up my spine. "They're hunting," I whispered. He glanced at me, nodding once. "The question is whether they're hunting you," he said. "Or me." The idea that anyone might be hunting Colt had never fully settled in before. I'd been so focused on my own danger, my own running, that I'd forgotten he wasn't just a bystander who'd opened the gate and pulled me from a canyon. Silas had taken his brother. Hart riders had come near this cabin long before I ever crossed the ranch yard. "You were a target before I ever showed up," I said quietly. "I was a problem before you showed up," he corrected. "Target's what you call it when a man like Hart decides you're worth the bullet." I swallowed. "You think he has?" I asked. Decided that? He shrugged one shoulder. I poked him in public, he said. Cade made it clear Hart was already irritated. You being here just gives him a better excuse to ride out this way more often. Guilt twisted in my chest. Maybe I should go, I said suddenly. Maybe I should take your mare and go to that blue porch and pancakes and ride straight into a world where half the folks who see your face are already primed to believe you're unstable. Colt cut in gently. Where the man you're running from has more land, more men, and more money than anyone else. I shut my mouth. You leaving right now doesn't make this safer, he said. Not for you. Not for me. Not for anybody. What does? I asked. He scanned the horizon, then looked back down at the tracks. Knowing where the danger's coming from, he said. And who's really making it worse? His gaze flicked to my face. That's why we're gonna follow these prints, he added. Slow. Careful. Just far enough to see whose horse was standing in my yard without my say-so. We walked together, Colt adjusting his pace so I could keep up without jarring my shoulder too much. Stay on my left, he said. If you slip, I've got your good side. It was such a small thing, a simple, practical instruction. But the way he said it, like he'd already mapped my weaker points and adjusted quietly to cover them, it did something warm and unfamiliar in my chest. He led us down the gentle slope away from the cabin, eyes scanning the ground, picking up the faint marks where the horse had shifted, turned, and headed back toward the narrower of the canyon trails. Is it Hart's man? I asked. Not sure yet, he said. Their horses have a particular shoe. You noticed the nail from last night, he pointed ahead. Marvel at the magic of dried mud, he added dryly. We rounded a scrub bush, and there it was, clear where the ground held more moisture from the storm. A hoofprint, deeper at the toe, with a slightly squared edge and a tiny nick in the rim. The faint impression of a stamped mark near the center, blurred but still visible. My breath caught. I know that, I whispered. Do you? He asked. Yes, I said. Silas uses the same farrier for all his horses. He calls it consistency. That little mark, see how it curves? That's the farrier's brand. I remember him showing it off at the ranch like it was some great accomplishment. Colt crouched, eyes narrowing. That mark, he said slowly, matches the one I saw in the dust near the north ridge the night Luke went missing. The words dropped between us like a stone in a still pond. So whoever stood outside your door, I said, rides for Hart, he finished. We stood there for a long moment, the canyon quiet around us. A bird called somewhere far off. Wind sighed over the rocks. Then something else caught my eye. Wait, I said. What's that? Just beyond the clearer Hart hoofprints, faint but different, was another impression. Smaller, narrower. The edges were less sharp, like the horse had been lighter or the rider had held them back. Another horse, Colt said. Does it match the first? I asked. He shook his head. No, he murmured. This one's shot differently. Toes more rounded. No mark in the center. And these prints, he traced the air above them. They're older. A day? Maybe two. Someone else has been out here, I said slowly, before Hart's rider, on a different horse, and they stopped in the same place, Colt added. Right where you'd pull up if you wanted to look at my cabin without being seen. My mind spun. Could it be Kate? I asked. He said he knew you were hiding something. Sheriff rides a big bay with a chip in his front left hoof, Colt said. I know his track's half asleep. This isn't his. Then who? I whispered. He stared at the second set for a long time, jaw tight. Don't know yet, he said. But whoever it is isn't riding for Hart directly. Different shoes, different habits. They're watching, from another angle. Watching you? I asked. Or watching who comes in and out? Feels like both, he said. A strange thought flickered through me. What if it's someone who doesn't trust Silas either? I asked. Someone who's not ready to talk to Cade, but doesn't want Hart to have this canyon to himself. You're hopeful, Colt said. Is that a bad thing? I asked. He gave a small, crooked half smile. Not when it keeps you from lying down and quitting, he said. Just don't let it blind you. Not all shadows ride for the same side. We followed the tracks a little farther, just until the land started to tilt more sharply and the canyon cut deeper. The prints grew fainter where the wind had skimmed over the ridge edges. Far enough, Colt said. No sense leading our boots over every secret trail I know while eyes might be watching. You think they're still out here? I asked, skin prickling. If Hart's men came back, we'd hear 'em, he said. This other rider, they're quieter, but dust doesn't lie. If they're close, we'll know. We turned back toward the cabin. Colt, I said after a moment. Yeah? He replied. When you look at the ground like that, I said, it's like you're reading a book no one else can see. He glanced at me. Anyone can learn, he said, if they want to. I do, I said. I want to. I don't want to be the girl who gets led around and told what is happening. I want to stand next to you in it, at least as much as my stupid shoulder lets me. He stopped walking. I nearly bumped into him. He turned, eyes searching my face. You already are, he said softly, standing next to me. You're the reason I went into that diner and called Hart a liar to his face. The reason I pulled you out of that canyon wasn't just 'cause I heard a horse scream, Rose. I swallowed hard. Why then? I asked. Because I saw your eyes behind that barn, he said, before you ever rode out that gate. And I know what it looks like when a person is choking on a life somebody else picked out for them. The memory of that moment, him standing in the shadows, opening the barn door without asking questions, rushed back, vivid and sharp. Nobody ever tried to read me like that, I whispered. They just kept telling me I was lucky, that I should be grateful. You were trapped, he said simply. Grateful's not the word. Emotion burned behind my eyes. Thank you, I said. You keep saying that, he murmured, like I'm doing you some favor. Truth is, you're giving names and faces to things I've been feeling about this valley for years. Makes a man feel less crazy. We walked the rest of the way in silence, but something had shifted. It wasn't just him protecting me anymore. It was us, side by side, staring out at a world that had been tilted in Silas's favor for too long. If you've ever had someone finally see what you've been trying to say all along, you know the way the world tilts a little, like maybe you're not the problem after all. If you want to see what Colt and I do with these tracks, and how the second, quieter set of prints starts to matter more than we expect, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next step. And tell me in the comments, if you could read the dust in your own life, what patterns do you think you'd find? Back inside, the cabin felt both safer and more fragile. Colt shut the door, checked the latch, then checked it again. You keep doing that, I said gently. He shrugged. Door's the line between out there and in here, he said. Storm rattled it. Hart's men tested it. Now mystery riders are standing just outside it. Forgive me if I make sure it's holding. I forgive you, I said, wholeheartedly. He gave that almost smile again, then moved to the stove. You should eat, he said. You get shaky when you're hungry. Makes your face pale. You noticing my face often? I asked before I could stop myself. He paused, spoon halfway to the pot. Heat rushed to my cheeks. He cleared his throat. Hard not to when you're the only other human in 50 miles, he said. And your expressions are loud. Loud, I repeated, half offended, half amused. Yeah, he said. You think every feeling quietly, but you were most of 'em right here. He gestured near his own eyes, his own mouth. I pressed my lips together, trying to keep them from curving. You trying to say I don't hide things well? I asked. You hide the big stuff, he said. The scared and the hurt and the habits of apologizing for existing. But the small things, you frown when you're concentrating. Your nose wrinkles when you're disgusted. And when you're hopeful. He stopped. When I'm hopeful. What? I asked softly. He busied himself with ladling stew. You get quiet, he said, like you're afraid of breaking it. He handed me a bowl and didn't meet my eyes. My chest felt tight and strangely light at the same time. We ate at the small table this time, bowls between us. Do you think Cade will come back? I asked. Eventually, Colt said. He's not the type to ask questions and then forget about them. You trust him more now? I pressed. I trust that he doesn't swallow Hart's story whole, Colt said. That's something. But he's got a badge to wear and a town to answer to. He can't move as fast or as loud as a man like me. You think you're loud? I snorted. In my own way, he said. Sometimes loud isn't about volume. It's about who you choose to stand in front of. I toyed with the edge of my bowl. If he does come back, I said slowly. Do you want me to stay hidden? He went very still. That depends, he said. On what? I asked. On how ready you are to have a lawman look at you and measure you against a story Hart has already told, he said. Cade might believe his eyes, but seeing you might make his job harder. And yours? What do you mean? I asked. He leaned back. Right now, You're a missing bride in his reports, he said. A problem to solve. A person to find. When he sees you, you become a choice. A woman asking him to decide whether he serves the law on paper or justice in practice. The weight of that settled over me. And if he chooses the law on paper? I asked quietly. He'd have to take me back. He'd have to try. Colt said. That is why we were not giving him that choice until we have more than just your word against heart s. More? I echoed. He nodded toward the window. Tracks in the dust, he said. Nails on the ground. Missing men with letters in their pockets. Land deals that don't make sense. We start gathering pieces. Kata's more likely to stand in front of you if he is holding something solid in his hands. We're building a case, I realized. We're building the truth in a way heart can't explain away, Colt said. Or at least making it harder for him to call you crazy. Later, when the heat of the day had settled, and the canyon slid toward evening again, Colt stood by the window, fingers drumming lightly on the sill. What are you thinking? I asked. Thinking about that second set of tracks, he said. The ones that aren't hearts. Worried? I asked. Curious, he said. Worried comes after curious on my list. He turned. You up for one more walk? He asked. My shoulder throbbed, but the thought of being stuck inside while he went out again alone made my stomach knot. Yes, I said. If we go slow. We will, he said. This time, we headed in a slightly different direction, skirting the cabin yard, cutting across a flatter stretch of sandy ground where the storm hadn't scoured everything clean. It didn't take long to find what he was looking for. The second set of hoof prints curved away from the hard trail, looping around a large rock outcropping, then stopping near a scraggly tree clinging stubbornly to the ridge. Here, the dust told a clearer story. 2 hoof prints close together, a scuff patch where someone had dismounted, narrow boot tracks moving to the edge, then back. Colt crouched, studying the ground. Same rider? I asked. Same horse at least, he said. See that chip on the left side of the hoof print? Whoever owns this animal doesn't have heart's fairy or money. He traced a line in the dust with one finger. They stood here a while, he said. Weight mostly on their left leg. Leaning. Watching, I guessed. Most likely, he said. A prickle raised on my skin. Watching us? I whispered. Or watching for who else might come, he said. Something caught the light near the base of the tree. What's that? I asked. Colt reached down and picked up a small, crumpled object. A cigarette butt. He rolled it between his fingers, sniffed, frowned. Hand-rolled, he said. Cheap tobacco. Kate doesn't smoke. Neither do Hart's man. He doesn't like the smell on his nice furniture. Who does then? I asked. Half the drifters in this valley, Colt said. And at least 3 men who sit at the back table in the diner and pretend they don't hear gossip. You think it's one of them? I asked. Could be, he said. Could be someone from another town. Could be someone who doesn't want to be seen at all. He slipped the butt into his pocket. Proof? I asked. Maybe, he said. If the right person smells it. We stood there a moment, looking out over the canyon. From this angle, you could see the cabin roof, small and stubborn, wedged near the lip. You could also see the path Hart's men took when they came the first time. And if you squinted, you could almost imagine another rider sitting where we stood, hat low, watching it all. Feels like being on stage without knowing when the curtain went up, I murmured. People like Hart think this valley is their theater, Colt said. They pull the ropes, decide who speaks, who exits, and us. I asked. We're the ones who decided not to read our lines, he said. As we turned to head back, Colt's gaze snagged on something carved into the tree trunk. Wait, he said. He stepped closer, squinting at a crude mark cut into the bark. It wasn't deep, but it was deliberate. A circle with a slash through it. What does that mean? I asked. Depends who you ask, he said slowly. To some, it's just a bored kid with a knife. And to others, I pressed. To others, it's a sign that says, don't trust what you see here, he said. Old trail mark, drifters, scouts, men who don't belong to any one ranch. Don't trust what you see, I repeated. Could be a warning about the canyon, he said. Could be a warning about the cabin. Could be a warning about Hart's tracks. Or about you, I said softly. Or about me, he agreed. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Somebody with their own code was here, I whispered. Watching the same things, leaving signs only certain people would understand, and whoever they are, Colt said, they want somebody else to know this place isn't what it looks like. Our eyes met. Maybe we're not the only ones building a case, I said. Maybe not, he replied. We moved back toward the cabin as the sky darkened, that dusty pink giving way to deeper blues. The wind kicked up a little, smoothing some of the sharper edges of the prints we'd been reading. At the edge of the yard, Colt stopped again. What now? I asked, heart climbing back up my throat. He pointed at the ground. Fresh hoof prints. Newer than the hard tracks. Newer than the second riders. So new the edges were still crisp, the dust inside barely settled. They led not toward the cabin, but away from it, down a side path I hadn't noticed before, where the canyon wall opened just enough to let a single horse through at a time. I didn't see those when we left, I said. Because they weren't there, Colt said quietly. You mean? I swallowed. Someone came by while we were up at the tree. Could it have been Kate? I asked, grasping for the least terrifying option. Colt shook his head slowly. Kate's bay leaves deeper prints, he said, and he's not shy about calling out. This rider stopped long enough to look, then left without making a sound we could hear. Maybe they didn't want us to know they were here, I whispered. Or maybe, he said, they wanted us to find this later. He bent down, eyes catching on something glinting faintly in the dust near the first fresh print. He picked it up and held it between his fingers. A small brass button. Not fancy, not polished, worn at the edges like it had seen a lot of jackets, a lot of saddles, a lot of time on the road. He turned it over. There, stamped faint but clear on the back, was a tiny mark. A circle, with a slash through it. My heart stuttered. The same symbol as the tree, I whispered. He looked at me, then at the hidden path, then back at the button. Whoever's riding that second horse, he said slowly, they're not just watching. They're leaving a trail, a quiet one, for someone who knows what to look for. For us? I breathed. Maybe, he said. Maybe not. But either way, he closed his fingers around the button, jaw set, eyes gone distant and sharp. We're not the only ones tracking truth in this dust anymore. The canyon wind shifted, carrying a faint echo of something I couldn't quite name. Not just danger, possibility. And somewhere beyond the ridge, out of sight, another set of eyes watched the same land and made their own choice about who to trust. When I ran from Hart Ranch, I thought the valley was split in two. Silas's land and everyone else living on it. Now I was standing in a canyon yard, watching Colt hold a button marked with a stranger's sign, knowing with a strange, shaky certainty that someone else was out there, riding between the lines, leaving quiet warnings where only a few would see. Hart's riders left tracks. Colt followed them. But this new rider, they were leaving more than tracks. They were leaving messages. If you want to know who that second rider is, and what happens when their hidden trail crosses ours, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any episodes.